StattoJoe, and I'm joined by the Enigma, Luke Sherwin.
There I am. It's me, the Enigma. It's lovely to be here. It's a delight to join on a Wednesday evening to chat through some football. And my oh my, is the Premier League hotting up, heading on to the
Ooh.
final day on Sunday.
Ooh. Some of the results, especially today. Oof. Unbelievable scenes. It's nice to go into a final day knowing that it's good that they're playing at different time or the same time, because then they won't even know what's going on, and there's so
Yeah.
many things up for grabs. And just before we came on air, we were looking at some stuff that we're going to talk about that has absolutely blown our minds based on the Premier League table. But surely the main headline, really, because we talked about this on Sunday, I think it's only right that we talk about it again, really, is last night's big game, because that's kind of where the big decider was. So, look, tell us all about Chelsea-Leicester City Part 2.
Yeah, so Chelsea played Leicester again after the FA Cup final at the weekend, and we had what was made out to be a fascinating game of football. We saw a Chelsea team that could rotate a little bit more. In actuality, they didn't rotate that much, but a couple of players, which potentially proved to be pivotal. Let me spit it out
Thanks. You
there.
got there. You
Uh,
did it. Well
I
done. Well
got
done.
there
Good job.
eventually. I just wanted to make the word longer. But Leicester couldn't quite rotate as much. They were missing Johnny Evans as he went off injured in the FA Cup final. They brought in a few players, but ultimately didn't look the same side that played at the weekend. I think Chelsea showed their class. Chelsea really did the same thing they did on Saturday. They didn't really change that much at all in how they played, but this time came out with a victory. It was a good game. It was another game that, like the Liverpool Man United game from before a couple of weeks or last weekend, like that game, it was an enjoyable Big Six game. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it was nice to watch. It was a good time all around. Did you have any thoughts on the game, Joe?
Um, I wasn't shocked, to be perfectly honest. I think we kind of talked about it and we were like, yeah, I think this is what's going to happen. Um, you know, I don't. You see, after Leicester won the FA Cup, I don't think it's really fair to call them ballers, because they did win it. They did win a trophy, and they're probably going to finish fifth. So that's a good season in anyone's books, really, unless you're Man City or United. Um, there's Mikey. Good evening, Mikey. Mikey, would you be interested on coming on live to talk about West Ham? Because you're more than welcome to join the stream if you want, and we can chat all things West Ham later on if you'd like. Um, but yes, I think with Leicester, it's still a good season. We didn't. I realised when we went off air last week, we didn't talk about Brendan Rodgers as much as I'd wanted to, because I wanted to give him full praise, because I think that the job that he's done, yes, with the full backing of the owners and all that stuff, I think he's done a fantastic job, and you know I'm kind of like proud of him in a weird like national sense. Like, that's one of us. There's Joshua Ray and thinks Brendan Rodgers is a tube. He's not a Leicester fan or clearly a Northern Ireland fan. So Josh, I don't.
Or
Why do you
clearly not unbiased either. So
why do you think? That's actually a good question, Josh. Why do you think Brendan Rodgers is a tube? Is it because of the Liverpool stuff and not winning the league? I think he's a Liverpool fan. I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, yeah, I think it was a good job from Chelsea. They've probably secured top four. In fact, I think they have. But yeah, I think now really Liverpool are in pole position to go and finish fourth. What do you think about that?
I think that's a fair enough assumption to make. Leicester have the hardest game on the final day. Ultimately, they play Tottenham. Well, I say it's tough, but at the moment Tottenham aren't overly great. But they play Tottenham. Liverpool are at home to Crystal Palace, and while Liverpool have had their issues at home this season, ultimately you'd back Liverpool to beat Crystal Palace. Although, in saying that, not to bring up Stoke, but Liverpool in the final day of the season, is sometimes a really, really fun time. I, as a Stoke fan, saw Stoke beat Liverpool 6-1 on the final day of the season, so a little bit biased. But I would back Liverpool to beat Crystal Palace, and Chelsea are playing Villa. I think they'll get some form of a result there. When he was at Liverpool, I could have stood in the technical area and won the league. Suarez and Sturridge on their own would have won that league. A top class manager. I couldn't disagree more with that statement. I think Brendan Rodgers did a really good job because apart from Suarez and Sturridge, the rest of the team was pretty rubbish. The rest of the team was not that good.
Pretty
The
crap
rest of the
team.
team was nothing like the Man City that won the league this season, do you know? Or like any of the teams that have won the league, apart from Leicester, but theirs was an entirely different situation. I think Brendan Rodgers did a great job at Liverpool. Yeah, please feel free to let me know why Jay Spearing is one of your all-time favorite Liverpool players. But you'll probably not. Ethan has rightly said there had to score about 5 goals a game to win because defensively we're really poor. And I don't think that's all Brendan Rodgers' fault because you look at the likes of Celtic who he managed and now Leicester. I don't think that the issue was in fact the defence. I don't think that's a Brendan Rodgers thing. I think it was a Liverpool thing. Do you know who was it? Sacco at the back or whatever that season. All we needed was a draw. Yeah, again, I don't think it was Brendan Rodgers' fault. Ultimately, one game does not define a season. I think I don't think Brendan Rodgers takes the blame for that. I think the players take the blame because they were comfortable. They were comfortable and should have won that, but they let it slip.
Also, if Liverpool had won the league that season with the team they had, that would have been an unbelievable achievement. So let's not say that for them, like finishing second was still a great achievement. I get it's heartbreaking, I get the slip, I get all that stuff. That's gutting, of course it is, absolutely. And ultimately, really, if you think about it, if we're going to talk about singular moments, that defined that season, it was. I've just seen Matthew's comment. Sorry, I'm laughing because Matthew said Brendan Rodgers needs to eat his Sunday dinner with a paramedic. Chokes on it all the time. Matthew, he didn't choke on Saturday when Leicester won the FA Cup. So,
Like, look at the team. The team. I've just looked up the team here. That's so not true of manage Liverpool to the Prem because there was a defence that had Glenn Johnson, John Flanagan, Mamadou Sakho, and Martin Skirtle. You cannot tell me that is a title-winning defence. And for Brendan Rodgers to have got even close is an achievement. Yes, Joe Allen is the greatest player to ever play in the Premier League. You're right. Gerrard was great. Lucas Leiva was a fine defensive midfielder, but that in no way was a team that should be anywhere near winning the league. That defence is nothing like a Premier League winning defence. And so to make the argument that John Flanagan should have won the Premier League as a starting player is ridiculous.
But also, the point I was getting to before Matthew's, to be fair, quite funny comment interrupted was Gerrard's slip is ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, was what cost them the league. Josh, you're saying how can you say coming second in the league's an achievement whenever you're going to celebrate coming fourth on Sunday? So do not come here and say how is that an achievement whenever this weekend, and I promise you that will happen, if you come fourth this weekend, you will celebrate like you won the league. And that is the kind of crap that annoys me, is whenever you say things like that.
It's nice there, Joe, because we're seeing two very different sides of Liverpool fans right now in the comments because Josh and Matthew are being very biased, whereas Ethan nicely is coming in here to say most of that squad was mid-prem at best, and he's absolutely right. As a Liverpool fan, acknowledges the fact that it was an achievement for Brendan Rodgers to get second. You look at Ole Gunnar Solskjaer this season, there's nobody out there that says him getting second place was not an achievement. That is such an achievement for Solskjaer. Nobody expected them to be anywhere near going second place in the Premier League. So for him to get second place in the Premier League is a massive achievement. I don't think you can say getting second in some cases is not an achievement.
Also, I think Liverpool getting fourth this season is a great achievement based on the kind of nightmare that they've had this season. because they were like, I know they were first at Christmas, top of Christmas. Yeah, I've heard that said to me a lot of times. But you lost 6 home games in a row until about 3 weeks ago. You never had any hope of getting Champions League football, and now you might get Champions League football. And there are so many Liverpool fans who are celebrating. Josh, you might not celebrate the same way, and that's totally fine, and that's like up to you. But I know a lot of Liverpool fans who will celebrate getting fourth this season. And I think rightly so, because the Liverpool bench is nowhere near the same calibre as some of the other benches in the Premier League. And you saw tonight in the Liverpool game, was it, I think a 3-0 finished against Burnley. The first half, Liverpool stuttered their way through. They managed to get the goal, and then they got the 2 goals in the second half. Got the 3-0 win, and they're through. So now we have Matthew and Josh, who are brothers. Matthew said second as first loser means nothing. Josh said the Champions League shouldn't be called the Champions League because it's not the champions of each league. But did you guys not win the Champions League whenever you weren't the champions the year before? Look,
If it was just champions of each league, it would not be a fun competition. That's the only issue, is that you would have 6 good teams and then the rest would be rubbish, and that would be disappointing. Why it's so exciting is right now the Champions League final is between teams that in the Premier League currently are first and third. That's fun. Last year it wasn't necessarily just all winners that go. Yes, it was Bayern Munich and PSG. They were in this case. That's not always the case at all. I think the Champions League is more fun having more teams outside of just winners. Also, Liverpool would be nowhere near as many as they have got if it was just winners. So I think you, as a Liverpool fan, would be disappointed by that. Ethan there again says 100% celebrating fourth with City so strong at the heart of the team out with injuries. As a Liverpool fan, you should be celebrating getting fourth, because at one stage it looked like you could finish 8th. But 2 years ago, this is what annoys me about Liverpool fans. 2 years ago, Liverpool fans would happily have come second and said that's some achievement, because they were finishing like 7th and 8th in the Premier League. Now, because they've won the league once, they expect that to be winning the league every season, which is unrealistic. Man City have put together one of the greatest squads ever to play in the Premier League, and they haven't been able to win back-to-back all the time. It's not normal to expect to win the league every season. Yes, you want to do it. That's normal. You want to try and win it. But to say it's not an achievement to still come second from a team that 5 years ago was finishing 7th in the Premier League, it's nonsense.
It's also not weak to sit and say, to look at Man City's squad and go, yeah, that's a better squad than ours. In fact, if you're not sitting there and doing that, no one this season could ever compete no one in the season could ever compete against Man City. No one could. I don't even know if Liverpool could have competed this season with a full strength 11, because there wasn't the same amount of time to rest players, and because the squad depth isn't the same. Would they have managed? Now, obviously, they're hypothetical questions. If they had a full strength team, I would have fully expected Liverpool would have given City a race right to the final day. So, I'm not saying either way that they wouldn't have, or they would have, but I just think that's one of those questions. But also on the Brendan Rodgers thing, I have said it a lot, and I've laughed about it, about him being a bottler. And we've talked about it before about, Leicester not doing well last season, or not that they didn't do well last season, that they bottled top 4 last season, that they're pretty much going to bottle top 4 this season, it looks like. And yes, he has a reputation for not fully getting the job over the line. However, with Leicester, the situation is very different, because Leicester are, on paper, overachieving by a mile. So with the squad that they have, the fact that they're sitting guaranteed, I think they're guaranteed 5th. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think if you're guaranteed top 5, right? I've just seen the Mickey Mouse Cup. What do you do?
The Mickey Mouse Cup is the League Cup, not the FA Cup.
FA
You
Cup.
can't change it now just because Liverpool have never really won the FA Cup in recent history.
Yeah, I'm just going to look this up. When did Liverpool last win the FA Cup? 2011?
Against Bolton. Is it that one?
I'm just trying to look it up.
Not sure, but back to your point anyway. Leicester are guaranteed 5th place in the Premier League at a minimum, which is very good. 2006, people are saying here.
2006?
15 years ago, which is why it might be the Mickey Mouse Cup in their eyes.
Oof.
Yes, Leicester are doing very well. I will say, though, it's a strange one because last season I understood it a little bit more with Brendan. Last season, Leicester did really well, but as soon as pandemic hit and football came back after the break, they were terrible. They were really bad, and they just did not do well at all. Leicester really hit, like, the poo hit the fan after that, and that was that. But this season, they've been consistent enough, and I can't give him credit in saying, "Oh, it was because of the pandemic." This time it is a question of motivation and whether Brendan Rodgers is the manager who can motivate entirely. To bring in Newcastle is ridiculous here. Again, I come in from a semi-neutral standpoint again because I'm not a Liverpool fan, not a Newcastle fan. I support a team in the Championship, so I can't make any comment on that.
I just want to say to Josh that we've won the Championship twice in the last 10 years. So we're a club that everyone should be scared of. We've won trophy. I can't even take myself seriously.
So true. But Liverpool are a big team, and if they expect, they should do. What do we think about Vardy recently? As we kind of wrap up our chat on Leicester before moving on, maybe to the Liverpool game for tonight. What do you think about Vardy recently, Matthias? He could hardly score furniture. Clearly, he's taking his shoes off before coming into the house. He's a good man. But yeah, Vardy hasn't been good enough. He's looked a little bit off the ball, and last night, they went back to a one up front. And I thought, I wonder if this will do well. But he had the unfortunate situation of playing against one of the best defenses in the league, and so it's a hard thing to judge. I'll be more curious come Sunday when they play Tottenham to see how they set up, because if they set up one up top with Vardy against the Tottenhams, I would back him again. But maybe that injury has cost him a little bit of pace. Maybe that injury has started the decline of Jamie Vardy, which is sad because he's a great player and he's amazing to watch. But I'm not too sure. What do you reckon?
Look, I think Vardy next season could be a squad player, potentially, because he's either lacked confidence, and I wonder, not that Leicester don't have motivation right now, but if he was maybe trying to play his way into a Euro place, would that extra motivation maybe have spurred him on a bit? But yeah, I think we've seen the best of Vardy, and he hasn't got the same pace, and yeah, it's just
again, Josh has just put in that Brendan has ruined a good player again. If you look at his stats under Brendan Rodgers, I think they would disagree. I think age.
Who's Brenda?
I think age and time has come for Vardy potentially, and injuries have maybe caught up with him because his stats under Brendan Rodgers are ridiculous. He really has. Arguably, got Leicester out of a lot of difficult situations, and single-handedly is the type of player who will win you a game. Vardy is the type of player who will score out of nowhere and make you win, and maybe that's why Leicester are bottling this again. Maybe this is why their form has got worse, because they are lacking Jamie Vardy to change a game, and maybe Brendan Rodgers needs to look to change something. That's that. So Leicester now are sitting currently in 5th after tonight's game with 66 points. Chelsea on 67 points. And finally then Liverpool now have leapfrogged Leicester. Brendan is top level, says Mark. Glad to see you're on our side. But Josh is still adamant. #Brenda out. We say no to Brenda. Liverpool tonight played Burnley. Yeah, a weird game of football. Burnley had far more possession, far more shots than I expected them to. Joe, what did you make of the game tonight?
It actually wasn't a bad game. In fact, I thought that certainly in the first half, Liverpool's defence looked a bit shaky, or Burnley just played well. It's one of the two. I'm not sure. I'm not going to say either way because I don't want to cause some sort of controversial anti-Liverpool hate here. That's not the point. But Burnley missed some, I would say, easy to fairly easy chances. Liverpool went and scored a pretty good team goal. I've seen the comments are class tonight. Josh just said Phillips could hit. Phillips could hit a meteor back in this face.
The Rain
Josh,
brothers
that's
have
quality.
clearly
That's
been sitting
quality.
there googling together. What can we say about the Liverpool team?
But I mean, Firmino scored, so that's surely something we should all celebrate together. As Firmino scores a goal, which is less often than my exams are at the minute. But
Excuse me, he got Luke Sherwin man of the match just last week.
kind of
So could you please take that
controversial,
back?
controversial. But look, a good win overall for Liverpool. Obviously, a much needed win, and actually, until their first goal, I was not worried. That's the wrong phrase because I didn't actually care. But I
Excited,
was,
I think you mean.
I was. What's the word? I was thinking to myself that maybe this could be a draw, just the way it was playing out. Because Allison made some good saves. Liverpool didn't have many chances. Had some. Salah missed a couple of good chances. And then, yeah, in the second half, Phillips, who hadn't scored for Liverpool in the Premier League, got the header. And then, yeah, what did you think? Luke,
I
thoughts?
would say the worrying thing has continued here for Liverpool in that we look statistically again. 20 shots tonight. 20
Mm,
shots tonight. And how many on target? Just the 3 that went in. Like, that's.
clinical.
And Will Norris was playing keeper tonight. I've never heard of him. I've never heard of him before tonight. It wasn't, it wasn't Peacock Farrell. It wasn't Nick Pope. It was a random guy who let in all the shots that went against him on target.
Mm,
And so the worrying signs are there. Liverpool are having a lot of shots, yes, but the ones going in, are few and far between because they're just simply not getting them on target. Wow, wow! I didn't even know how to respond to that comment. Um, but yeah, Liverpool, I thought defensively actually were okay. But Ethan says here if they'd played a better striker, Liverpool would have been caught out. Their striker constantly running off the back of Reece Williams, and that is a point to bring up. Chris Wood has been phenomenal in these last few months.
mhm.
Really good. The goals he's been scoring actually have been quite nice as well. But he's not quick, and that's what cost Burnley tonight. If they had a quick boy up top, somebody to run in behind and take Reece Williams, they probably could have scored. But Liverpool probably knew that Burnley don't have a quick striker and were happy enough to let them come. Robertson had one of the best games he's played in a long time, played well
Mhm.
again. But Josh has said their popular opinion, but I genuinely couldn't agree more. Um, not with that, not with the couldn't catch COVID. But as Josh has said, I think if Chamberlain could get his fitness back, he'd be a really good option for a goal scoring midfielder. I think that is something Liverpool are dying for. They are calling out for somebody who's going to pick up the ball and run at defenders. And Chamberlain's done that his whole career. That goal he scored against City a couple of years back was unbelievable. But Chamberlain and Diogo Jota, I think, both play very similarly and both make Liverpool a more diverse team. Just the other day,
Mhm.
Joe, we were talking about how Liverpool are one-dimensional. Liverpool have a plan A, but they have plan B. They don't have a plan B. There's not a British rapper in there. They can't do it. And so Chamberlain and Diogo Jota offer an alternative that makes Liverpool better.
Yeah. Again, we did say about Jota on Sunday, and I think we'll probably do a review of the season. And I think for me, he's probably one of the signings of the season. Um, but yeah, I really like the Ox. But actually, Josh said there about having a good option for a goal scoring midfielder. I would love to know your thoughts, Josh, on Firmino playing cam or 10 or like that kind of like attacking midfield role. Like, do you think he could be a goal scoring midfielder, or would he be more of a because Firmino this season has created more than he's scored. You know, he struggled for goals, but he's played well as a creative player at times. So I just wonder what Liverpool fans' opinion would be of that, because if I've thrown that out to a couple of people, and people seem to think that's a decent option. But yeah, in terms of like Liverpool overall, looks like they've secured top four. They just need to beat. Is it Palace they play on Sunday? I think they just need to beat Palace by more goals than Leicester by like. Is it, are they three? I think they've got 3 goals on Leicester. Uh, they have 4, so they need to win. You know, by 4 goal, or they need to. How do I say this? Leicester need to win by 5 goals more than Liverpool do in order to go into.
Unlikely.
Yeah, unlikely because they're playing
Um,
Spurs. Although who
just
knows?
just on that point, actually, about goal scoring midfielders. Any Liverpool fans, I'd be so curious to hear. So if you're live, stick it in the chat. If you're not, stick it on Twitter, tweet us, put it on Instagram, whatever. Why is Gini Wijnaldum not a goal scoring midfielder, even though he can clearly do it for the Netherlands?
Because he came from Newcastle.
No, but he can do it for the Netherlands. His goal scoring record for the Netherlands is ridiculous. He scored a lot of goals in not very many games for the Netherlands. Why does he not do it for Liverpool? Is it a Klopp thing? Does Klopp tell him to stay back? Is it a tactical thing? Does he not get the same freedom in the Liverpool team? Why is Gini Wijnaldum not scoring as many goals as he does for the Netherlands? I'd be so curious to hear what you guys have to say. Mark here has put in that Bobby's not good enough and that Chamberlain should be out. I don't know who you support, Mark, but I'm starting to think it's not Liverpool.
I think he's a Liverpool fan. I do think he's a Liverpool fan.
Ethan there has said, when you're trying to win the Prem, you need a goal scoring striker. Absolutely right. I think that's a big issue with a lot of different teams at the moment. You look at Arsenal, Aubameyang hasn't been firing this year. You look at Chelsea, they have a couple of strikers who aren't great. You have City, who don't have a striker either, and Liverpool are largely similar. Tottenham are one of the only teams who have a out-and-out goal scorer in that big six sort of contention, and yet he wants to leave. Apparently, according this week, is that he wants to leave. So Kane would be a great signing for anybody. But yeah, thank you, Josh, for saying that's a great question. But I'd love to hear your answer. Why why can't GD score goals? But Joe, yeah, we've talked about Liverpool. Defensively, thought they looked good tonight. Attacking wise, Salah was terrible. Thought Salah played really poorly. Played like a Mane tonight. Burnley all across the field were not good at all. Any final thoughts about Liverpool before we maybe then chat about the more exciting European competition, the European Conference League?
Well, just big game defensively from Liverpool. The ratings all round from the back four are astronomically good. Trent on an 8, Nat Phillips on an 8.9, Reece Williams even getting a 7.5, Robertson got on an 8.7, Alisson got an 8.2 as well. As you were saying about Salah, 6.3. He did miss a couple of chances, and that's the thing about Salah. He'll score out of the blue, right? He'll score out of the blue. Like, he'll score ridiculous goals, and then often when he gets presented with decent chances, he'll. I noticed tonight that he likes to lace his shots, and then tends to kind of get them over the bar. Just get your knee over it. Get your knee over it. But yeah, I think overall, decent enough from Liverpool. Fair play. They've done it when it counts, and Matthew Rain says that Liverpool are going to win the quadruple next year. Heard it here first. And Matthew, if it does happen, we can come back in a year's time and go, "Wow, this guy Matthew Rain, he's nailed it. He's nailed it. He'll go down forever in StattoJoe folklore."
Joe, speaking of hearing things here first, you heard it here first. The problem with Arsenal is they try to walk the ball into the back of the net. And tonight we saw a prime example of that. We saw a prime example. Arsenal won tonight 3-1. 2 of their goals coming in added time at the end of the game. They had 6 shots tonight, only 3 on target. A much better ratio than Liverpool, I'll give them that. But the problem seems to be 69% possession. They're trying to walk the ball to the back of the net. I've told you so many times, that's their problem. But they came up with a win tonight. They win. We're not going to talk too much about it. Nicolas Pepe had probably one of the best games in his Arsenal career, which is great. You'll have to see that. Love that suggestion there from Ethan. Joe to pull a Lineker and present StattoJoe in his underwear if Matthew Rain is correct and the quadruple happens. Yep, you've heard it here first. You've heard it here first.
It's done.
Sorted. But yeah, Arsenal looked solid enough. It was great to see determination. Pepe and Martinelli looked like 2 players who actually wanted to win the game, and that was really nice to see. Partey had a decent game. Callum Chambers played all right at right back. There were some actually decent individual performances, which was nice. But yeah, Arsenal won, getting 3 points. We look at the rest of the table. Tottenham yesterday, not yesterday, the early kickoff today, managed to lose. They lost 2-1 to Aston Villa in a game. They didn't look great. Ryan Mason clearly doesn't really know how to manage a football team. It's a prime example of a former player coming in, as we've seen countless times in these last couple of seasons, not doing really well. Tottenham lost. And West Ham won. Maybe we'll get Mikey on to chat about that at some stage. But it actually makes the race now for Europa Conference League / Europa League kind of interesting, because we look at the league and behind Leicester, we have West Ham in 6th, Tottenham in 7th, Everton in 8th, and Arsenal in 9th. Joe, just the other day you had written Arsenal off completely. What are you thinking now?
You're not just throwing this back on my face. I think I'd written off. I'd written off Arsenal because they're Arsenal.
Quote. You stopped at Leicester and said, or at Leeds, sorry, and said anyone below that is probably too far away to get anything. Now we look at the table; it's a completely different story.
Yeah, well, I think interestingly that Spurs bottled it tonight. I'm perplexed at that, by the way, because Harry Kane's potentially last game at White Hart Lane, you'd think there'd be some sort of performance there from them, because they realistically had to win to put the pressure on West Ham. They didn't. West Ham decided they'd show up in the second half today, because why show up in the first half when you can show up in the second? But with Arsenal, it's funny because I feel like you would rather not have Europa Conference League. Like, for me, I would rather. Well, no, I wouldn't, because I'm a Newcastle fan. If I was an Arsenal fan, I don't think I'd want Europa Conference League. Like, I'd rather not get it, because it actually, by being in the Europa Conference League, highlights how embarrassing your season was.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
In saying that, there was a season 2000. Actually, I heard Trevor Sinclair talking about it today on TalkSport, and West Ham effectively were in the Europa Conference League in the year 2000 and won it. And he said the fans loved it. The fans all came along. They had a great time. It was a nice European competition for them to be in. But talking from a player's perspective, he was like, I couldn't care less. I don't know where my medal is. I don't really remember who we were playing. And he was saying it's not that, big of a deal. I think that is the case, especially with it starting out. Although maybe with it starting out, it is the best season to be in it, is the first one. Win the first one, say, happy days, we've done that, and then try never to get back into it again. But the race there is holding up, because it looks like 5th and 6th are going to get Europa League, and 7th will get Europa Conference League. And so Arsenal, in my opinion, will get it. I genuinely think Arsenal are going to finish 7th in the Premier League, which I didn't think I would say a few weeks ago or months ago. On the final day of the season, Arsenal are at home to Brighton. Not an easy game, as we've seen, via Man City just yesterday. But Everton have to go to City and Tottenham have Everton have the advantage in that City don't really have anything to play for, but Leicester definitely do. And so, Joe, what do you reckon? Who do you think finishes 7th there?
Oh, Frank. I'm utterly convinced now that Arsenal are going to finish 7th. But I'm also aware that Leicester don't have the brick wall that is Johnny Evans at the back. And so, but it's Spurs. You're hearing or watching me internally die as I try to think about who's going to finish 7th. No, sure it'll be Leeds. No, it'll be Arsenal. I think it'll be Arsenal.
Nice.
Um,
It'll not be Leeds because they're not going to
that was a joke. No, that was a joke.
It could be. They could score. If one team's going to score 15 goals in the Premier League game, it's Leeds. It's Leeds. They'll score 15 and their goal difference will be mad. Ethan's asked there in the chat, Joe, Luke, if you were Kane, would you stay?
No.
Not at all?
No way. No way.
Why not?
Absolutely not. It's been an absolute shambles this season. And if
But
you're... would I say, look, I've played for this club for... How long's Kane been at Spurs? Like, first team? Like, 5 years, 6 years? I've played for 6 years. We've won diddly squat. That is not what my ambition is in my career. I want to go on to win the biggest and the best. He's arguably one of the best strikers in world football right now. Surely it makes more sense for him to be going to a bigger club. I don't know where he fits though, is the issue. But for me, he has to go. As Claude from IFTV would say, RIP, it's time to go. It's time to go.
Harry Kane has averaged 20 goals a season since 2014-15.
Mm-hmm.
He's a one-season wonder, eh? One-season wonder, as they said at the start, as he scored those 21 goals, followed that up with another 25. I think personally he needs to go. Sadly, Newcastle aren't going to be in the Championship, but I would take him at Stoke. I'll take him there. Michael O'Neill could do wonders with him. Good question there from Josh saying, would you rather win one trophy with your club than 10 at a random one? I guess it depends on whether he truly cares that much. Like Tottenham, are they just his employers or is he a fan? Notoriously, he's an Arsenal fan. So that was those pictures arrived.
To Josh's point, sorry, I wouldn't want to stay at a club to never win a trophy and look back and go, I should have moved. The only reason that Shearer stayed at Newcastle that whole time was because he'd already won the Premier League with Blackburn, right? So he'd already won the trophy, so then he was there for loyalty purposes. He didn't go to United. He went to Newcastle and he stayed. He'd already won the trophy. He'd already reached that kind of peak of winning the Premier League, right? He'd already done that. Harry Kane, unfortunately, has not, and he's one of those players that it would be, if you were to look back and it would be like, who's one of the best players to play in the Premier League and never win a single trophy, because Spurs haven't won a single trophy since he's been there, the answer would be Harry Kane. If that was to happen, the answer would be Harry Kane. For me, I think you've served 6 years for your club. You've got the Champions League final. You've tried. You got the League Cup final this year. You were put in your owners screwed you over because they got rid of Jose just 4 days or 6 days before the final because they were too busy trying to cover their asses over the Super League. And you should, I think, go, I've served you for 6 years. I've given it my all. I've scored 20 plus goals a season, but my ambition for me, singular, is to go and win trophies. And that's not going to happen here. And I just think he has to go.
I think Ethan's spot on there in the comments when he says a bit of a Bale situation, too good for them. He's right. I think the way that Tottenham are going, manager and everything, they don't look like they're going in the right direction. They don't look like they are heading to winning stuff. They don't have a squad that's deep enough, a squad that's good enough to play. They're not going to be in the Champions League next season. Kane needs to go somewhere where he could win the Champions League. And if I'm Kane, I'm thinking, I could make Tottenham a lot of money here. Daniel Levy cares a lot about money.
Hmm.
I think that's good enough. If I'm Kane, I'm thinking make that money, and that's grand. One man club or one club man, it's possible, but in the Premier League, it's a lot harder at the moment because the teams fluctuate entirely. There are still, like as Mikey's pointed out there, like Mark Noble, yeah, because he's a bang average player, is a one club man. To be fair, um, Messi is a one club man potentially until maybe this summer. Um, it's a lot easier in other countries with good teams that you're not playing in the Premier League, the most competitive league in the world.
Hmm.
I think Harry Kane needs to leave. Where he goes is another debate. Real Madrid would be great for him. Barcelona wouldn't be good for him. Bayern Munich makes no sense. PSG, I don't think is that desirable from a Harry
No,
Kane standpoint, but would
no.
probably make the most sense because he could
Guaranteed
actually go
winners.
and win a lot of trophies. He
And
could go and
Pochettino.
win. He could genuinely go and win three next season if he wanted to at PSG with Pochettino as their star player alongside Neymar and Mbappe. It's
Hmm.
quite the front three. He would be the missing link that Icardi just simply is not. Um, but Harry or Man City maybe would be a good fit for him. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not too sure. Would fit
What
Real
about
perfectly. He's a better Benzema. I think I would agree. Any other season, I would have agreed straight away with you. But I can't slander Benzema at all this season because he single handedly got Real Madrid within one game of potentially being able to nip the league. So I think he's a good player, Harry Kane. But I don't know if you can just get rid of Benzema like that.
Look, if he wants to maximise his trophies, he has to go to Liverpool next season because they're winning the quadruple, confirmed. So
You make a good
that's
point.
that's
I
where he
thought you
needs to
said
go.
to Maximan there for a second, and I was like, "Where's he come into this?" But you said to maximize, so it's all good.
But
Joe, we don't have enough lot of time left here. We've kind of got
no,
carried away chatting about
we need to
Harry Kane and
talk.
all these things, but
I
it's been
just want
great
to.
to have everybody commenting in the chat and giving us lots of questions to talk about.
I just want to put out a question for the chat while we bring Mikey on, and that is: would you really blame Kane if he went somewhere to win trophies? But anyway, that's for another day. But basically, we want to talk about West Ham for a bit. They've had an unbelievable season. Today, they managed to turn around a pretty poor performance to win 3-1 against West Brom. And a good mate of mine, Mikey, is on, and we're going to have a chat about West Ham. He's a West Ham fan. Mikey, welcome to the show.
How's it going, lads? Thanks for having me. How are you getting on?
No problem, mate. Good to have you on. How are you?
Not too bad. No, it would have been better if that was a bit more of a comfortable performance, but the scoreline flatters it, I think, after that one now.
Well, it was interesting because the first thing I saw of it was Declan Rice missing a penalty very, very early on. So when you're sitting watching that game, what's your immediate reaction then? So that happens. What are you going? Is this that's it? Not happening tonight?
No, it was more of a. Firstly, you should be scoring that. You don't want the
Yeah.
record of the earliest missed penalty ever in the Premier League on your shoulders, which Declan Rice now has. But yeah, it's sort of like it is a bit like geez, because I wasn't confident going into this game at all. Anyway, I was thinking West Ham are going to West Ham themselves now again. They have a chance for something, and then they go and West Ham it. But it was sort of like need to cop on a bit now. But it wasn't all doom and gloom at the start. It was like okay, because we were actually going all right at the start, and then it just went to pot.
And I think it's difficult because you're playing a team there's nothing to play for, right? So we were talking about this on Sunday about when Liverpool played them. This is a team who the shackles are off, right? That they're free to express themselves. In fact, even enjoy themselves a wee bit.
Yeah,
Um, so obviously, yeah, because I was messaging you during the game, kind of giving you a bit of banter about like, oh,
yeah.
Declan Rice. But what are your thoughts now? Because you go into this game then on Sunday, right? Essentially kind of in pole position for Europa League.
hmm
Um, how do you feel? What do you think overall?
Oh, it's been an unbelievable season overall. It's been next level. Looking at where we were this time last year, we had relegation breathing down our neck and managed to get out of it. But the turnaround has been phenomenal. I mean, the old Champions League was an old great dream and all that, but realism kicked in. It was never really going to happen. Our owners would have hated it. They were complaining about having to pay £50,000 to go up to Everton for a cup game. So I imagine David Sullivan would be rolling, fucking trying to find an excuse not to pay for that. But you know, it was it's an unbelievable turnaround. I mean, Europe is a bonus. I mean, getting up there
Mm.
and being able to go on a European tour, as you see all the West Ham fans saying, is unbelievable. But yeah, no, I mean, going into this last game, it's nice to know that we have it. We have something. We have some definitely guaranteed something, especially with the Spurs loss tonight, which was a great bonus. But yeah, no, it's exciting times. It's exciting times.
Absolutely. Mike, I just got a couple of questions. If you're still here, yes, you
Shoot.
are. First question: do you think Declan Rice is good enough to start for England? And
Absolutely.
second question, you feel free to elaborate in a wee second. Second question: do you think Mikel Antonio is good enough to lead the line for West Ham, or would you think striker is the sure-in position to try and improve?
Okay. Declan Rice, absolutely. Again, I do have the West Ham bias here now, so take it maybe with a slight pinch of salt. But I think Declan Rice is probably one of the best defensive midfielders in the Premier League. Um, the way he reads a game, he's improving his game constantly, game by game. Um, and and he's the forward element of his game is improving greatly. Um, he's his ability to read the game. I think that has helped where he started out at the centre half and he's worked up to that position. But I think maybe himself and Henderson would be a good maybe. I don't really know. I'm not really one for the international football, to be honest with you. But I think yeah, he's certainly one that should be one of the main names on the starting sheet for Gareth Southgate. Um, and I just mentioned about Kane there as well. It's funny, obviously, there's a lot of rumours. I'm going slightly on the tangent now, so I do apologise. But talking about Harry Kane and that, moving on, like Declan Rice, at the moment, not this year, he is someone who deserves to go on and go for trophies and everything, because he's such a fantastic player, and you can't, as a fan, blame those players for looking to move on and win stuff when the club they're at isn't able to achieve that, do you
Mhm.
know? So going back to the Kane
Yeah,
situation, you can't blame him, But
you're right. We
in the
touched on
summer,
that last week, actually, Mikey, with
mm,
Iosi Perez having won the FA Cup, and Joe was
yeah,
saying it was great to see as a Newcastle fan, and
yeah,
I thought like when as a Stoke fan when we let Steven Nzonzi go, he
yeah,
wanted to win more, and Asmir Begovic went to Chelsea, and it's the same sort of thing. It's like you're raging inside a little bit, but
of
also you're
course,
really pleased for them. You're really pleased to see them grow
yeah.
into the big time.
Especially if they leave in good circumstances. It's not like obviously being a Stoke fan, you know the situation when he came to us,
No,
and then he
mate,
did the
don't
same
even.
thing to us. I'll keep the language clean, but I think we agree about Marco Arnautovic, to be honest with you.
We
But
do.
if they leave in good circumstances, you can only wish them the best of luck. But your second question, Mikel Antonio is one of the most frustrating players to watch for West Ham. He is so frustrating. Like there was a game, like he confuses me because one minute he looks like he has the great striker's brain. You see him making little runs, like fantastic. He's a great position there. And then next thing you know, he's out on the wing doing nothing. When like we've got Soufal or Cresswell looking to cross it into the box, and Antonio's nowhere to be seen. There's a ball there, Saeed Ben Rama. He put in a lovely ball across the box, and there was two West Brom defenders, and Antonio was running with it. Is it AJ? I can't remember the lad's name. And instead of cutting in front of him, he runs behind him. So Ben Rama can't put this lovely ball in across. It literally needed tapping.
Mm.
If you have a striker there, bang. Like I said, watching the game, if Antonio was solid, he'd be banging 20 goals a season. Do you know what I mean? It just because he has the ability there. It's just he's so frustrating. But yes, we need striker is the main one. Striker is the
Yeah.
main one. I think personally, I wouldn't have let Haller go. He didn't work for West Ham. It was a flop signing. He didn't work at
Mm.
all. But at least it was slightly something different. At the
Mm.
moment, we've no plan B. We've no plan B whatsoever. It's like we were found out against Everton. We like to play on the counter, sit back and defend that. We're useless. We don't know how to break it down. But yeah, I mean, rumors of like Tammy Abraham, they're interested in him. I think that would be a great sign for West Ham. I think he'd be a great addition, especially with rumors of him being on the outs at Chelsea. But yeah, we cannot go into next season with Mikel Antonio as our main striker. He's fantastic, you know, but you can't be relying on him because the injuries. He can be an awful spoofer at times.
You
Yeah,
wouldn't.
absolutely.
I could interest you in Joe Linton. No, you wouldn't take Joe Linton for like a 20 million. We'll take a loss, but you'd be more than welcome. I'll get a word in with Mike Ashley and set you up like goal scoring prowess.
Antonio, he reminds me of like Danny Welbeck, at United or Arsenal. He's that type of player who he's not a centre forward, but sometimes he plays like a centre forward, and he's not a winger, but sometimes he's on the wing, and
Exactly.
it's a really
That's
annoying
exactly
one.
Yeah.
But I think tying down, potentially getting Jesse Lingard in and trying to get in the likes of Tammy Abraham could do West Ham absolute wonders next season. And if they continue as they're going, it could be a really nice squad that they actually have.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, Moyes has done wonders, to be fair. When he came back in, it was all that, yes, what we're doing back with Moyes. But to be fair, he's built a solid team there now. Again, it's a solid starting 11, but as you say, we do need to improve and expand the squad and get some players in there that, I said, striker, another holding midfield player. But again, the groundwork's being laid again. We sort of skipped a few stages in the progression. If you look at, like, say, Leicester, you could say they jumped at winning the Premier League, but they came up a few solid seasons. We've sort of been flirting with relegation, and we sort of skipped that middle bit where we sort of finished 11th, 10th, 9th, and ended up, going 6th. But hopefully, yeah, it's, as I said, room to improve on, room to build on, and at the moment, it's a nice time being a West Ham fan for a change.
Good stuff.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mikey, for coming on. All the best for Sunday.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me. It's been a good time.
It'll be interesting because there'll be plenty for us to talk about if they do make Europa League. Because I think it'll be really interesting to see how West Ham actually do in Europe and what ultimately, in my opinion, is their ceiling. Right? I think even getting Europa League is an unbelievable achievement.
Oh, absolutely.
I think there's going to have to be some serious squad management next season. You're going to have to fill that bench rightly because you're not going to be used to being playing a Thursday Sunday schedule. So I think that'll be really interesting. But Mikey, you're more than welcome back on any time, mate. If you want, even Sunday, if you get Europa League, you want to come celebrate, more than welcome. But thank you so much. Really coming on.
Thanks so much for having me. Thanks so
Good luck
much.
against Southampton on Sunday. Hope it goes well.
Thanks very much. That's
See you,
appreciated.
Mikey, see you later. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
That was excellent. Just want to briefly mention there, Sam said he would say Liverpool, Chelsea probably to get 3 and 4. Liverpool are shaky at times, and they still have the best from the league. That's a good point to mention, Sam, because they do have the best from the league. Should definitely point that out. But I just want to point out one final thing, and that is that Joe Willock is one of the best players in the Premier League ever. Just obviously, humble brag. We beat Sheffield United 1-0. Not many teams have been able to do it this season.
Well done, mate. Big bottom of the league. Sheffield United 1-0. Starting a 17-year-old striker up top. Wow.
So, they were so scared that they had to put Brewster on the bench. But no, it's I just wanted to shout it out because he's the youngest ever player in Premier League history to score in 6 consecutive games. So I was joking about the 1-0 thing, Sam. Okay, I will shut up, I promise. But that was just a significant stat. I would have mentioned that for any team. So I just wanted to point that out because it's a moment of history. But this show is overrun by 10 minutes because it was madness. It was carnage in the chat, wasn't it?
It's been great. Thanks so much, guys, for all the comments and opinions and questions. It's been really fun responding, chatting, and getting triggered by Josh Rain. So it's been a good one. If I'm Jamie Vardy, I'm quick on my boots. Joe Willock's coming for my title of most consecutive games scored in. No, thank you, Josh. But follow us on Apple, Spotify, or Google Podcasts. Give us a good wee review on Apple. That'd be lovely. 5-star would be great. But yeah, check out those podcasts because we add in extra intros and outros answering football or non-football related questions. and just other things about our life. If you want to get to know us a little bit better and not think that we're just opinionated scumbags that talk
Yeah.
about football and hate on Liverpool, so feel free to follow us there.
Yeah, no, I just want to say personally for me, a big thank you to everyone who was in tonight and bringing their comments in, because it does make for a more spontaneous show, let's put it that way. But it was great to hear from you guys with all your thoughts and opinions. There was a brief moment mentioned in the chat about the local game, Northern Ireland, about Crusaders last night. I don't know if you know about this, Luke, but there was a bit of controversy because the Crusaders keeper was deemed to have his foot off the line in a penalty shootout against Lauren twice, got booked twice in a row, was sent off, and then in the third retake, they scored the penalty. I've seen the photo. I don't really think it's in fact, it's an absolute disgrace of a decision. I'm a Glens fan, so I have no stake in that game, and I don't have any kind of animosity between either team. Crusaders put us out of the cup, but I just thought it was a joke of a decision. I just wanted to briefly mention that so that you guys just knew that we were acknowledging that in the chat. But I would like to chat about the Irish League during that kind of quiet period during the summer, because I am quite interested in the Irish League, so it might be a good podcast episode we can do in the future, Luke. But thank you again for joining me, Luke, as always.
My pleasure. And up a Seasiders, come on, Bangor.
And we will see you all on Sunday night at 8 p.m. for our live reactions to the Premier League results and the final table and all that good stuff. So hopefully we'll see you there. Take it easy, guys. Have a good rest of your week, and we'll see you on Sunday night.
Never forget, the problem with Arsenal is they try to walk the ball to the back of the net.
Goodbye.